Good morning. As I was walking up here, I was pulling off my mask and it got trapped in my earring. And I thought, well, that will be awesome. We'll have it just dangling, but crisis averted. Welcome this morning to Friends Church. My name is Kelty, and this is the part of our service where we do charitable giving. Charitable giving is the opportunity for us to give back to the church and to support this church. The generosity of the members of Friends Church knows no bounds. Earlier this year, when we embarked upon COVID, we really put a call out to the community to say, this is going to be tough. And we really are looking for people to help support us through this. And the community has come back with a resounding cheer and supported us through this time of COVID. And we look forward to that continued support through the rest of this year and into next year. The other part of my message this morning for you is really about a staff offering. So each year around this time, we ask you to think about how you may have been impacted by our pastoral staff. You know, it's been different this year, obviously, for many reasons. It's not a nod in the lobby or when you drop your kids off at the Switch program. There's an indicate, you can kind of give a quick little nod and someone might come later and say, hey, I sense that something's not quite right. We don't have as much in-person contact over the last 9 months as we have. But one thing I can rest assured is to say is that our staff, our pastoral staff, has really adapted to this way. So as you sit here and think this morning, as you're at home thinking about how they may have, Vince, Carmen, Jeff, may have reached out and touched you in some way this year, whether it was through an email, whether it was through a group, or maybe you were actually one of the people who came down and saw us in person as we were able to come back. If you think about that and you're inclined, there is an opportunity through our app. There is a spot that will drop down and push pay to indicate a staff offering, and we would be certainly appreciative of that. Also, I'm delighted to announce that today we're bringing back a quasi-black box. So if you happen to be here and the app's not your style, good news, we can still take your money. At the back of the church, you'll find a small table. On it are some envelopes. Please feel free to use those envelopes. You can give them, once they're filled out, you can give them to Jeff or Vince or myself if I'm back there, and we'll make sure that those get safe. Now, before the service, I will tell you there was some jockeying for position because it is incredibly awkward after the staff offering conversation to then come out and be one of those staff members. And so Vince and Jeff did some rock, paper, scissors to figure out who would be the lucky person to follow me. And sadly, Jeff lost. And so in this awkward spot now, if you would please make him very welcome, he will be coming onto the stage. Thank you.
Awkward. So anyways, I'm here. Good morning, everyone. Just want to thank you again, reiterating everything that Kelty said. We're so grateful for the generous response of our community in so many different ways. And I'm here to just remind everyone gently about the big Christmas hamper initiative that we have going on right now. This is a different year. Normally, every year, we would put those trees out in the lobby, and literally we would say nothing, and within a week, all the cards would be gone. This year has been different, and I think a large part of it is because we've moved it online. There have been some people that had trouble navigating their way. I just want to walk this through one more time and just gently but firmly invite your support in this program. We've sponsored 20 families, and come hell or high water, we're going to give these 20 families a Christmas. And I would just love you to be a part of this. Here's how it works. You simply go to this website address. It's friendschurch.ca/hampers. It will bring you to this form. It's a Google form. You fill out your name, your email, and your phone number, and click submit. And it will bring you to this page, which is really just a link. If you click on that link, it brings you to the master list. Every line on this, and this is the master list here, every line represents a person, whether it's a parent or a child, a single person. You can read through their list of needs and wishes. If one of those people's list needs resonates with you and there's no one signed up for it, and by signed up I mean if there's no name in that column there where the yellow tab is, in that column, if there's no name for that line, no one signed up. All you have to do is click on that little arrow button. You see the little arrow right in the middle of that row on that column, You click that, and a drop-down menu of names will appear. Your name, if you filled out the form just prior, will appear in this drop-down menu. All you have to do is click on your name, and presto, your name will appear in that list. Now you're set. All I would do is say, take a screenshot of that row of list of needs and get out there and start shopping. All right? If you scroll down to the bottom of the master list, there is a list of just gift cards that are needed. You could sign up for one of those just like you could sign up for this here too. That's all there is to it. And then to get whatever you've signed up for back to us before the 15th, you can just bring them to the office here. Now, one last thing. If you're saying, I don't feel safe going out into the stores right now and shopping, that's fine. We have volunteers who are saying, we'll shop for you. We might not have the money, but we will spend your money and make sure that these families have needs. So if you want to donate cash, just go to our website. It's friendschurch.ca/donate. And click on local water and donate money. We'll take that money and we'll do that. Now, if you want to shop, if you're going, I'm a shopper, reach out to me, jeff@friendschurch.ca, and I'll get you shopping this week. All right? Let's give these people a Christmas. Thank you, everyone, and thank you for everything that you do to make this world better. We're very grateful. Vince, let's go.
Morning, everybody. Oh yeah, let's give Jeff a round of applause. I'm always struck by the requests on the hampers. It's not like I need a new computer or, my video game collection is needing help. It's I need towels and I need sheets. And my kid needs a winter jacket. So I don't know about you, but I love being a part of that. To start the service, we're going to kind of tag team. I'm going to talk a little bit, then I'm going to have the band take you to another place, and then I'm going to finish off. So to do this, I just want to read to you part of the Christmas story. This is how the birth of Jesus the Savior came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through divine means. Because Joseph, her husband, thought she'd been unfaithful, which was illegal, and did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he thought to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, a divine messenger appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is by divine order. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, meaning one who saves, because he will save his people. How's that way to start a message, huh? I was downstairs rehearsing, and that song got caught in my head, that idea of connecting to hope. I was saying it was lucky that the voice in my head didn't sound like me singing. It sounded like Alessandra singing. How are we doing right now? I was talking with my neighbor the other day. I said, hey, buddy, how you doing? He's like, I'm depressed. But isn't everybody? And we laughed. And then I realized, yeah, we kind of all are, aren't we? We just came through a big season of lockdowns, and then it kind of opened up again, and now we're on phase 2. And I don't know about you, but yeah, I'm sick of it. Remember at the beginning, the first kind of bump of numbers we had, someone sent me out a video. And let me just be straight up, folks. My background is interpretation theory in biblical studies. I know nothing about virology and epidemiology and all this stuff, so I am not a person to listen to when it comes to reading data about this, okay? Everyone, what I say means basically nothing. But I'm seeing this trend of our numbers, and I remember seeing the provincial estimates, and they were just like off to zombie apocalypse, right? You remember those at the beginning? Everything was just bad to worse to we're all going to die and the world's going to end. And I remember someone sent me this video that said, oh, there's going to be a bump and then it's going to flatten out and then it's going to go down. Now remember, Do not take my words as important. Hear how I reacted to this. I wanted a better world so much that I was like, yes, that's what I'm going to pay attention to. Because his numbers say things are going to get better now. And I like those numbers better than I like this zombie apocalypse number. Because I don't know about you, but I'm just tired. I'm sick of being home. I'm sick of wearing a mask. My dad just had his knee replaced. Can't go see him. He deleted, hey, Dad, if you're watching, please put WhatsApp back on your phone. He took it off because he's like, I don't need that, but it's the only way me and him can video chat. And so now I can't video chat with my dad. And I can't help him get it back on his phone because we can't video to walk him through it. You know how it is. Dad, please. I'm sick of it. So I want you to sit for a moment and say, what feels like it's never going to end? What part of your life is just like, I am sick of this? Like, it's being locked at home, wearing a mask, not being able to hug somebody you love. I'm sick of running down the street and feeling like everyone's a threat to me. You know, like I run out into traffic to try because, they're there, and what if, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? We're probably all going to die, right? So I'm running through traffic to try and avoid this person. And remember when we just be able to walk down the street and just wave at somebody and it was no big deal? And as I'm kind of sitting in this space, and I think we're all there somewhat, I can feel your guys' energy. You're just kind of like, Vince, downer. We already know how bad this is. Don't tell us about this, right? I was reading an author named Amy Jill Levine. She's a Jewish scholar who studies New Testament stories. And I was reading her reading of the Christmas story, and something happened. There's like this snap. And I realized there's a part of the Christmas story that I think applies to right now, right here, in this stage 2 lockdown. Because if you don't know, and again, no one reads the Bible, maybe you do, but I tend to study the Bible, so I probably read it a fair bit. I want to give you guys kind of some primer on the Christmas story. You know that piece that I read to you? That story is set, let's say, about 0, right? Not BC, not AD, 0. But it actually wasn't written down for 70 years. So most of us have this kind of picture of, a journalism person, some lady sitting with her laptop in the manger, typing down what's going on, and the angels, okay, yeah, there they are, and the wise, oh yeah, got it. Okay, what did Mary say? Yeah, okay, can you say it again, Mary? I think I missed that, right? We kind of hear it as this narrative about what happened. But if you study the Bible, and if you study how to read the Bible, there's many different ways to read it. And one of them is this thing called a reader response criticism. That's, by the way, that cost me about $100,000 to be able to say that word to you guys. That's my entire education. Thank you for letting me say that. I appreciate that. Reader response criticism is a fancy-ass way of saying criticism is just how do we approach the text? What questions do we ask? Reader response says, who was this written for, and how would they have read it? Because I know you all think the Christmas story was written for you, so you could hear about the baby Jesus and, all that business, but it wasn't. It's kind of like we're reading two people's mail, or something was written for somebody, and then 2,000 years later, we're reading it. But how did that first reader see this story? Remember Jeff talked last week? He said, the story of Jesus, so again, here's when the readers are. Back to the setting of the story in 0. 0, the entire nation of Israel was occupied by Rome. They were taxed as high as 80%. Their lives were not their own. They couldn't own things. There's all these rules that basically if a Roman soldier wanted something of you, they could do it. It was, abuse, beatings, rapes. It was a brutal time, but there was one small light during that time. They had religious freedom. I think of it as before we had the mask mandate. We couldn't do a whole lot, but I didn't have to wear a mask, and that was awesome. And so these people, again, 7 years later, they're in this place, 0. Rome's occupied. They can't do anything, but they can still do their religion. It was like Rome said, if we take away their religion, they're going to get really mad, and that's not worth it to us. So let's just let them have it. They had this massive temple in Jerusalem that they went and engaged in religious practices, kind of like this, but much nicer. And so even though everything had been taken away from them, they still had this one little bit of something, this kind of light in their lives. Here's the problem. In 66 years after the setting of the Christmas story, a rebellion started. Now, anytime you oppress a people, there's always rebellions, right? There's stories of, Roman citizens in a big group of people. Someone comes up behind, puts their hand over their mouth, sticks a knife in them. They drop, and everyone just scatters. That was common in this time. But something happened, and the rebellion started to gain some momentum. People started to rally. People started to protest. And then finally, in the valley of Beth Horon, something unbelievable happened. The rebels united against 5,000 Roman soldiers. Now, Rome had figured out how to fight in a way that helped them take over basically the known world at the time. You see the maps, and it's just like Rome basically owns everything. And so their best of their fighters are sitting at the bottom of this valley, and all of us who are sick of all the restrictions, who are sick of all the oppression, who are sick of everything, said, I've had enough. It says, the Roman historian Tacitus says this, the Israelite people, they grabbed whatever they could, rocks, they threw them at the soldiers. Finally, they grabbed whatever they could, sticks, the rusted sword that somebody threw in the corner because it wasn't any good, and they raced down this valley towards the troops. 5,000 soldiers. We don't even know how many of the Israelite people fought, but they came running down the things, and the unthinkable happened. No one could stand against Rome. But because of the way the valley was set, the soldiers couldn't get into formation. And they only knew how to fight in formation. In fact, the reason we think that Rome was able to take over the part of the world that they did, was because they learned how to fight in formation. And now they didn't have it. And with all the anger and the hurt and the frustration, the Israeli people came running down and smashed into that group of soldiers who couldn't lock shields. Instead of dying as rebels, the Roman soldiers broke rank and ran. Your oppressors are running away from you. You're running down this field, and your oppressors there, the ones you're literally thinking you're going to smash into, and you're going to kill yourself, they turn tail and run. And every painful, every abusive moment of your life, you see in front of you. And the Israelites killed basically every soldier they could. It's like the world was silent for a second. Somebody had beaten Rome. This is the story of the people who first got the Christmas story. They've been oppressed in kind of their first phase lockdown, but they have religious freedom. And now it's like there's a miracle happened and they might get freedom. Except here's the deal. They spent the whole winter celebrating their freedom, their success, the end of Roman occupation. until spring, 60,000 Roman soldiers landed on their shores. 60,000 of the best trained warriors in the world landed on their shores. 500,000 civilians in Jerusalem fought against them. By the end of the war, the walls had fallen. A good percentage of those people were killed. And remember that one light at the end of the tunnel? They couldn't own anything, they could be abused, but they had their religion, they had the temple, they had something. Rome went to their most sacred place and tore it down. And we're not talking like, hey, I'm going to board this sucker up so you can't go there. No. They said not one stone that was stacked atop of the other stone for a wall will remain standing. They took it down. They took it apart. They threw it. You can still see the rubble. Basically, every stone was thrown. They took every sacred relic out of that space and destroyed it. They violated the whole thing. And now the Jewish people go from Rome occupies us, but we have religion, to phase 2 lockdown. We have nothing. We threw our best. We thought we beat them, and we lost. Can you feel the hopelessness in that story? And that's what the Jewish scholar brought to me. She said, this was written to a group of people who are hopeless. And I went, wait a second. That's how we feel in our darkest times, doesn't it? This will never end. I'll never be able to be with the people I love. But here's the deal. This story of Christmas was written to those people who thought the world was over. When I told my coach this story, he's like, wait, isn't the whole story of Christmas about baby Jesus? And I was like, well, yeah, that's part of it, but there's more. And he's like, whoa, there's more? What do you mean there's more? This baby Jesus, right? Like, that's the whole piece about Christmas, right? Baby Jesus, baby Jesus, baby Jesus. And then he just kept repeating, baby Jesus. And I was like, buddy, there's all kinds of things. Now, let's do the reader response criticism, right? You're Jerusalem. Your world has been destroyed. You're looking down the barrel of the next however many generations having nothing. What do you write to those people? Baby Jesus, baby Jesus, baby Jesus? No, they write a line that I ended the quote of the Christmas story. Chantel, can you throw that line up for me when you have a second? Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. Now, here's the thing that we don't know, because we're just focused on baby Jesus. This line is code. This line is a line that if a Roman person read this line, they'd go, okay. But if anyone else read it, they go, wait a second. This is a quote from an earlier movie. This is a quote from a story that we actually know already. Because there's two ways to look at birth in these stories. The first way, virgin birth. In Bible times, if you had an amazing person, you didn't say like, Carly, she's amazing. You would say something about her birth that was amazing. And the amazingness of her birth would be commiserate with her amazingness. Make sense? Anyone ever heard of John the Baptist? Biblical character, kind of a cool guy, ate locust and honey. I'm not sure why he did that, but he did. His dad, before he was born, they tried to have kids for years. What didn't work out. His dad goes into this temple, the very temple that was destroyed, and he has a moment with God. And he comes out and he has the most amazing moments of charade ever. This is kind of how it goes. So, charade's like 23 words, right? 23 words. Second word, help me out here, people. Who said angel? Nice. Chantel's like, you guys weren't getting it. Come on. Okay, so without putting it up, let's try the second one, because I'm really crap at charades. I was trying to figure out how to tell you guys this one. Hey! Is that you? That was a good one, huh? Exactly, the Sistine Chapel. I love her. She now gets a gold star. Okay. Menopause. Thanks, Dave. Of course. It was right there, wasn't it? As soon as I said it, he was like, of course. Can you throw the full quote up? An angel from God just told me that my menopausal wife and I are going to have a baby and his name will be John. Menopausal wife. Can you have a baby after menopause? No, that's the whole definition of that line, right? So if you want to say someone's amazing, you say their mom was menopausal when they were born. So virgin birth then is one better, right? I think the next one they should do is like there's no mother, no father, they just spontaneously showed up. Or like, poof, baby, ah! Not sure how that would work. So that's one way of reading the story. That would be the way that everyone else would read it. If you're a Roman, you'd be like, oh yeah, our Caesar, virgin birth, no big deal, happens all the time. But here's the deal. If you were Jewish and you knew the stories of our background, you would realize that this line is actually a quote from an earlier line. Now, the earlier line is a bit different. It says it this way. Behold, it's actually, this is the one that's from the New Testament. The original story is, behold, a young woman shall conceive and bear a son, and his name shall be called Emmanuel, which means God with us. You see, the story that they're referencing, the movie they're referencing, is actually a story about a guy named Ahaz. Ahaz was in his maybe 6th or 7th lockdown. Everything was coming in, falling in on him. There was pressure from the left, there's pressure from the right. He was a king, he was trying to guide his people without destroying them. And there's just weight everywhere. And he's going, this is never going to end. I have to make a call. And he's going to make a bad call. Because he's like, it's never going to end. We just need to give up now. And a messenger from God shows up and says this. In the time it takes for a woman to conceive and give birth. That's what? 9 months, right? And then the story goes on and says, once that baby has been weaned from milk onto solid food, so let's give it another year-ish. Is that fair? So all told, if my math is good, we're someplace in the 2-year mark, right? In 2 years, if you can hold on for 2 years, this will be over. To the people, the Israelites, 70 years after the birth narrative, whose lives have been destroyed, and now in a failed rebellion, everything's been taken away from them, including their religion. The writers of the Christmas story say, remember the Ahaz story? In 2 years, this will end. My mom was a twin. And when she was young, I think she got scarlet fever. And at the time, they didn't really know what to do with scarlet fever. So as about a 5-year-old, they put her in a hospital room and locked the door for weeks. She could have no visitors. No one would touch her. Doctors would come in full gowns. There's a window in the room, and her mom could wave at her through the window, and that's all that she got for weeks on end. What does that do to a 5-year-old kid? You know, I look at, as we kind of look through this pandemic and go, when is this ever going to end? I wonder about a 5-year-old's perception of being completely isolated from everyone that they love. I think that changed my mom. Because she had this line she would say to us all the time. She'd say, you know, I'd come home and I'd be sick and I'd be like, oh, Mom. She'd say, Vince, this too shall pass. We'd be getting bullied. This too shall pass. Business wasn't good. We're struggling to find money to put food on the table. This too shall pass. When I look at the Ahaz story, the messenger from God says, this too shall pass. And it is written to a bunch of people who are on their second phase lockdown after a failed rebellion. And it says, if you have eyes to see this, this too shall pass. And when Amy Jill Levine looked at me through that book and said, yeah, I know you're struggling. I know we're all struggling. It feels like this is never going to end. That this will be our lives forever. We will always be wearing masks. We will always be locked in our homes. We will always be dealing with this. And through that Christmas story of the virgin birth that ties into the earlier story of Ahaz, I say to you and I say to me, this too shall pass. What part of this needs you to say that? What part of your life right now needs to hear that line, this too shall pass? I look at all the things that we've been taken away from us. I think this too shall pass. I think the people who are unemployed because of this, who are desperate, this too shall pass. I think of the families who are home when that's not their best way of being. And parents are breadwinners and teachers and parents and trying to keep themselves sane. This too shall pass. You know, I could have told you about the research around optimism. Do you know that if you're optimistic, you tend to live a little over 14% longer than if you're pessimistic? That your attitude actually controls how long you're going to live. I could have told you the story about Amanda Lindold, the Albertan, who a number of years ago was held hostage in Somalia for 15 months. Beaten, abused, raped. It's a horrible story. She said one of the ways she got through it is every day she would say to her fellow hostage, we're one day closer to getting saved. I can tell you the story about Brittany Hamilton, the surfer, who was attacked by a shark while she was surfing. It so mangled her arm that they've had to amputate her arm. She's still surfing. She says, you can't control what life brings you, but you can control your attitude that you bring to that moment. And I don't know what you guys need today, but I needed that kick in the butt from Amy Jill Levine that says, Vince, whatever you're dealing with, this too shall pass. So I encourage you to take a deep breath. At the end of the story of the birth part, so this is before Jesus is born, before we get into the stuff that we like to focus on, you know, baby Jesus, baby Jesus, baby Jesus. Before we get to that part of the story, his mother's just pregnant. And the author writing to people 7 years later saying, I know you're struggling. I know you think life's never going to change. But think through the lens of Mary, through the voice of Mary, the character in the story. The author says this. Can you throw up the quote for me? I'm going to give you the Vince Clausen paraphrase, the Friends Church paraphrase. This is what Mary, mother of Jesus, the virgin who talks in the story, says this. In the middle of hell, I'm starting to feel hope again. I'm starting to feel like this will pass. And I'll play my part in making this world a better place, because there's a force in this universe, a force that can't be stopped, that's moving things towards a better future. And I love that force. I've believed in the force for all my life. Me and my ancestors before me, that force has been so absent, we sometimes wondered if we were even imagining it. But today, that force is shown to be stronger than chaos, stronger than evil, stronger than COVID. And that force is with us all today, and I have hope. She would have called that force God. I don't know what you call it. Maybe it's optimism. Maybe it's hope. I don't know what it is. But there's something we can do with the attitude that we bring to this. And if we can read the Christmas story and we can just put the Jesus side apart for just a second, and we can see the story behind the story written to a bunch of people, locked down in a way that we can't even imagine. We're given a story of hope that said, this too shall pass. For me, as I drive through people's yards and see little mangers, I see it differently now. I say to myself, this too shall pass. When I see the bright lights and the Christmas trees, I think this too shall pass. I don't know what's going to come. We're going to talk about that in a couple weeks. I don't know what's going to become, but there's something about that phrase that brings hope, doesn't it? And I think we can all use some hope today. So, in another way of praying, here's what I want to invite you to do. Close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath. Open yourself up to whatever it is that fits for you. Bring to mind that thing that feels like it's never going to end. That part of this that just feels so heavy and so annoying and so much. And just say this line in your mind. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. Amen. I hope you guys have a great week. Next week, Jeff's going to do a message that I have no clue what it is, but I think it's really awesome. What was it about again, Jeff? We talked about this. Sorry, dude. It's going to be really good. All you know is it will solve all your problems, and you'll be rich at the end. Have a great week. Wave to somebody with some joy in your heart. Stay safe. We love you all. Merry Christmas, everybody.